approaching sunset. Traffic southbound number 3 lane. Exiting at sunset. Traffic exiting at sunset. We'll notify LAPD.
911, what's your emergency? This is how can I help you?
911 emergency, what do you report?
Hello, and welcome to another episode of We Speak Dispatch. We have our usual suspects here today. We've got Leslie down here over in the corner. We've got John over in the corner, and we've got Doug. Woo, woo, woo.
Nice.
Because we don't know where everybody is.
I don't know where everybody is, so they're around here somewhere.
I love it.
Fortunately, I know where everybody's at, so I record.
Okay, good. So as we come into our new quarter of the year, here at We Speak Dispatch, we've been talking a lot about topics that we want to bring up, and talking about all the different topics made me think of one topic, specifically active listening. So I'm not going to get into a whole education, a whole educational program about what active listening is, because I think we all have a pretty good idea of what it is. I am blessed enough to, as a civilian, be FBI trained in crisis negotiations. And this was probably the biggest part of class, which makes me laugh because this is something that dispatchers have to do every single day. But why are dispatchers not crisis negotiaters? Just blows my mind.
That's a whole nother topic.
Yeah, that's a whole nother a civilian. Oh,
We'll have to get back to that later, because that's
yes. I mean, we only have like what 15 minutes here. So I wanted to kind of bring forward this topic about active listening and ask you guys specifically, give me some ideas or give me some of your go-tos for connecting with your caller during a crisis. What do you say? Because the whole ma'am, sir, we know it doesn't work. Mm-hmm. So what do you do to connect with that caller, to catch them on the line so that you can start that rapport? And I'll start with Leslie.
Well, I think one of the things that I do, there's another skill set that I wish I did more often, but the one that I think I do the most is using someone's name. Because we ask for it pretty early in the conversation. And I have found that, you know, especially if it's somebody that is upset or angry, and if it's someone who I can tell from their voice that they're older than I am, I use, you know, Mrs. So-and-so or Mr. So-and-so, but using someone's name tends to help me quite a bit.
I like it. Okay. John, how about you?
I revert back to my crisis intervention team training. And from that model, there are 4 plays, what they call it. So Leslie mentioned one of them is using the caller's name. So I will use another play, which is disclosing my name. And that comes with comfort level. So sometimes it's my first name, sometimes it's title and last name. Usually with the caller, they're giving you their first name. So I think I would give my first name. That way, you know, there's some level of privacy after that. So that would be one way to connect.
Nice. Like it. Dad, go for it.
Well, I do both of what they said in the bottom squares, because I've always found that if I and this sounds bad, but when I'm on the phone with people, I'm always talking very folksy to them, because if I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm Doug, what happened? What's going on over there? They will tell me so much more. And if I go, this is the police, what's happened? It's like, I'm like, oh my goodness, what happened to you over there? You sound really upset. What's going on? And you can get so much more out of people being a decent person. And it drives me crazy when I was teaching classes, or well, I still do. And people will say, I'll tell them, hey, I usually give my name when I'm on calls. It's usually one of the first 3 questions I say is like, what's your name? And here's my name. And people will be like, oh, I never tell my name. I just give my badge number. I'm like, really?
Exactly.
Really? That's so crazy to me.
You just broke the rapport, the connection.
Yeah.
Because they didn't give you their social security number.
Yeah. Right. Your social number and your visa.
Yeah. And, you know, bringing that human aspect into the conversation, it reminds whoever is on that phone that they're speaking to another human. They're not speaking to the police department. They're not speaking to the fire department. They're speaking to you. And so that really connects them. Okay, that was a good start. We got four examples there. That my favorite thing to do, and I'm talking about crisis calls where you need to keep that person on the phone, where you need to solicit information, whether you're on the phone with a suspect or a victim. Close-ended questions in the beginning so that I can, okay, what color shirt, what color pants, are you injured? Yes or no questions. And then open-ended questions as you get into it, because you want to be able to just have them talk.
Yeah.
While you're doing your thing, either you're running suspects or doing this, you have them talk, because you're going to listen. And you're gonna be like, wait, what did they just say? Well, what do you mean when he pulled the gun out? I thought you said there were no weapons. Oh, well, he had a gun earlier in the day. Or, oh my gosh, he's been drinking all day. Okay, when I asked if he had been drinking and you said no, well, he stopped, but he's been drinking all day. So you can solicit more information with open-ended questions.
Yeah.
Right.
So there we go. We got 4 good starter questions. When I 50 years ago, when I took my first EMD class, and I don't do
wasn't born
EMD
yet.
at the agency I work with now, so it may be very different, but a long time ago, I think like Jeff Clausen was my instructor.
Wow.
I learned about the freak and the re-freak stage. And I don't know if they use that term. Okay, they do. John's saying they do. But that has really carried over with me into law enforcement. Because as you get into this conversation and you start connecting with your caller, and then the totality of the circumstances hits them, they do the re-freak stage again. So there's no difference with medical or law enforcement. So when they do that and you have to connect with them again, and you've got this connection, how do you keep that connection and keep them from hanging up? So Leslie, we'll start with you again.
Hold on.
Or Doug, we'll start with you.
Let me just ask, because I guarantee there are people out there right now that are saying, freak, what the heck is that freaking about? So what do you mean by that, freak and not freak, or whatever you said?
Freak and re-freak.
Freak and re-freak. So, they call and they're, oh my God, my baby's not breathing. My baby's not breathing. Okay, this is what we're going to do. Let's start CPR. Let's do this. Let's do that. Once they get into it and they start it, their mind is engaged in what they're doing. They're talking to you. They're connecting to you. If they take a moment to step back and the totality of the circumstances happen again, they're going to start freaking out again. Oh my God, oh my God, they're still not breathing. It's not working. It's not working. Okay, we need to keep doing this.
Right.
So in law enforcement, the same thing will happen. They're scared. And so you connect with them. I have somebody in my house. And so you get them talking and you get them to a place where they think they can be safe. But then what do? You have to keep them on the phone. You have to keep them engaged, because the second you don't, they go, oh my God, I just heard something again. Or, oh my God, they're coming up the stairs, and they freak out again. So how do we stay connected with that? Leslie, go.
Oh, go ahead.
So, one of the things that I do is, and it works in crisis and in non-crisis calls for service, is letting the person on the other end of the phone know what's happening. And I stole this from the fire department in the EMD side, because I don't dispatch either one of those either. But I love when those call takers say, my asking you these questions is not delaying response.
Yeah.
So to continuously keep the person on the phone updated as to what's happening, because while we may know what's going on in the room, people who call us don't really know how the system works. So by letting them know what's happening in the background, I think sometimes that can give them a sense of comfort that what they need is on the way, and that I'm going to stay on the phone with them until help is there.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Doug, how about you?
Well, I mean, I just kind of take this back to the topic that I'm so passionate about is this sinking vehicle thing, where cars go into the water and people got to do something, and you have to keep them doing something, because the minute you stop talking, they're going to panic. So you've got them roll down your window, take off your seatbelt. Here's what I want you to do right now. And it's like, if you just keep them on that task, they're not going to have time to think, oh my God, something's going to happen, because you're just continually telling them, and do this and do this. And I've got so many tapes where the dispatchers just basically say, hold on. Where they're not talking, they're just sitting there. Yeah, they're freaking the heck out. And that's what freaking is. I got it.
There you go. John, give me your thoughts.
I'm going to elaborate on what Leslie said, because it came to mind. Is I'll usually disclose to the caller how many units are responding, just to keep them updated. And for those of us at my agency, and likely others, where we have automatic vehicle locator, or AVL, so you can query in the CAD system like where units are, or we can zoom out on the map and see the icons, travel on the screen, and just say, oh, okay, well, they're coming upon A Street, and now they're crossed over B Street, and oh, look, they're turning left on C Street, because the caller knows I'm off of F Street. Right. So It's like that
Right.
comfort level of, okay, they're just around the corner. But that does not mean, going back to Doug's point, is that I can drown myself, so to speak, is I can just be silent or I can go down my hole. I got to keep them going.
Yeah.
That's just one constant.
Right. Yeah.
Keep them
But,
connected.
and one thing that, you know, it's been recurring, and Glenn, I don't know if you're going to bring this up or if even this is really the forum to bring it up, but I do encourage people, because we've all heard the tapes and, you know, everybody's got a different policy. But one of the big things that I really am concerned about is making sure, because obviously we're big on responder safety. We're never going to put our field responders in a situation where they're going to be exposed to danger.
Yep.
But sometimes we say things on the phone or we give directions on the phone in a critical situation, thinking that we're keeping our callers more safe, when in actuality, we may be making them less safe. So sometimes the simple question of, you know, say it's a hot prowl call or something like that. And maybe you've been trained or you've even got a policy that says you must stay on the phone with this person.
Yes.
And so what we forget to do is ask the caller, do you feel safe staying on the phone with me?
Yeah.
Do you feel safe where you are? And really putting their safety in the forefront of your mind as well, because that also will build, you know, bind that bridge or build that bridge that you're going to have with them, because now they understand that you're also keeping their safety in mind as well.
Glenna, you mentioned the Clausen. I really like their model. And the statement is, are you safe and out of danger?
Mhm.
Are you safe?
And I routinely use that on my calls when it's called for.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. Yes, and so that brings up actually the very next part of this, because it ties into everything everybody just said. You need to keep them engaged, but you can't be telling them what to do. You telling them go hide when they were about to run out the door and they get hurt or they get killed, guess who's now responsible?
Right.
So by telling them, so let's go back to Doug's with the whole drowning thing. I remember listening to a tape and I could just hug on this dispatcher forever. She was so amazing. Look, I'm not going to have officers to you in time. You have to save yourself. So think about it. Let me help you. Can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do this? You have to save yourself. That dispatcher saved that person's life, because that person was frozen with fear and calling for help, saying, help me, help me, help me. The dispatcher helped her, because
Right.
her responding officers or fire crews were not in the vicinity. They couldn't
Mhm.
find her. That dispatcher saved that woman's life. So you have to put yourself in a position to where you're going to be a partner with this person on the phone. Hey, you're doing a great job. Okay, you know, even saying, okay, we're a team, we're in this together, we're doing this together. What's next? Do you still feel safe? And then I want to leave it with, I was taught this by my training officer, and I have never forgotten it, because there was such a significant incident that had happened around the time that I was in training a long time ago. Do not ever tell your caller to do or not do something if it's going to put them in danger. When an officer says, okay, we're 97, which for us means on scene, have the caller step outside. I don't ever say, okay, step outside and speak to my officers. Especially on like a hot prowl or a burglary or something like that. Do you feel safe getting out of your hiding spot and going to speak to my officers? And if they tell me no, that's it. They tell me no. The officers, no, she's not coming out, or he's not coming out. Okay, I need you to, I will say, okay, I need you to put away your gun. Do you feel comfortable putting away your gun so that you can make contact with my officers? No? Okay, you can't make contact with my officers until you disarm yourself. So I let them make the decision how they're going to do it. I don't ever tell them, give them hard and fast rules. And I know, Doug, that's a little bit different in your agency where you tell people to stop following like DUIs. I think that's okay because it's for safety reasons.
Well, and there's we have a number of those things. And when they used to answer call boxes on the freeway,
Yeah.
and you tell somebody, okay, you know, just wait right there. Well, some of the freeways, it's very much of a drop off on the side of the highway. So if they step 1 foot over with no lights, they're going to go over and tumble in this little ravine. So
Yeah.
you have to always tell them, wait where you feel it's safe to do so. Should I
Yes.
go back to my car? Only if you feel it's safe to do so. So it's putting it on that person to make that determination what they're going to do, as opposed to me saying, go back to your car. And they're like,
Right.
Get my car's in number 3 lane. I'm gonna go get it. So yeah.
Yep.
Right.
Go back to your
Yeah.
car. Okay, let me go through past, all those other cars again. Yes.
Right. Because in these situations, especially in the high priority of the high stress calls, that's something as simple as should I wait in my car? Well, we as dispatch, unless you've got a camera on their vehicle as you don't know what they're doing. So you have to be able to put it back on the caller because they are aware of their surroundings. But like Glenna's saying, you also have to be able to, and hopefully through the things that we talked about initially when this podcast started, with establishing that rapport and letting them know that you're there with them.
Building it.
They're going to listen to you, they're going to trust you, and you've now taken on the burden of doing the thinking for them, so to speak. But you're still going to work them through the situation that they're currently in because they're just, they're in the rafters.
And that goes back to what you started with, Glenna, is I think you talked about where you're on the phone with someone for a long time and building connection. These kinds of calls we're talking about, be it non-emergent or the hot prowl, whatever they're called, practice those skills there. And then when you do get the one where you're talking to the first party who's not coming out of the house, which turns into like a barricade sub incident, it becomes more natural to you.
Right.
Yes.
And I want to go back to something that Doug had said, because I don't know if anybody picked up on it, but he talks about, and I've heard some of Doug's calls, and he really does talk like that. But to acknowledge the emotion that the caller is feeling. I hear that you're scared. I understand that you're upset. It sounds like you're frustrated. What can I do? And label those emotions, because now that's one more thing that puts you in their situation. So you can acknowledge that, what they're going through, and then they do feel that it's a connection with you, as opposed to,
Very good.
they just
Yeah.
want the cops here, and you're the barrier from the officers getting on scene.
And if you don't have, and also going back to what Doug said, if we don't have or know, well, how do I fill this pause? Then the best thing to do is summarize what you've already heard.
Yep.
Or even better thing to do is to think about it before you get these kinds of calls. I mean,
Very good. Yes.
you have plenty of time when you're sitting there at work, nothing's going on. Think about, what would I say if this happened? I mean, we just had that United flight have an engine blow up on it over Denver. It's like 911 calls were flying into that place. Think to yourself, if I was in that comm center and got 911 calls reporting, possible airline disaster going to happen, what am I going to say? Who am I going to call? What am I going to do to this thing? If you think about those things, it builds those memory markers in you that'll actually help you when you do have something like that.
Right.
So, I mean, I was thinking about it today, and I'm not even a 911. I'm
thinking if you were in the plane.
Yeah, I'm like, wow, that's a tough one. So it's just something we should all be thinking about.
So as we wrap this up here, I think it's more important now than on a lot of our other podcasts. Leave us a message below if you're on YouTube or whatever, or engage in this conversation. Tell us what you guys do to engage with your callers, to keep them on the phone. Because what's going to happen is one person's going to leave a message, and then another's going to read it and say, oh, well, this is what I do. And it's going to start a conversation. Because if you notice, I told you that I learned this from my trainer. I learned this from EMD. We learned this from Doug. We learned this from John. Oh, Leslie, you brought up a good point. We just all did a little all networking right here. So let's continue that conversation so that our readers are looking and getting pointers, because that could be the thing that saves somebody's life in the future.
Yep.
And that's all I have for you guys today. I think Doug's going to wrap it up for us because he knows so much more about the podcast than I do.
Well, that's actually Joe's job, and he's not here today, but I will tell you, we're on at least 13 or 14 podcasts. We're heard all over the world. I think he told us 14 or 15 different
Still
countries.
with the Madagascar thing. I think that's the coolest thing ever.
Russia and all these other places that we're heard all over the place. So which is great. It's like, so you can listen to those podcasts. We're on all of those, iTunes, iHeartRadio, all those things. We're on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. We've got our decals if you want to be a fan of us. Just put it out there, put it someplace, and take a picture of it. We have our face masks that we've got that say We Speak Dispatch on them that are pretty damn cool. And it's like, we only got a limited quantity of those. So if you want one, you better hit us up quick. So they're almost out. So it's one of those things where we definitely appreciate everybody coming. Thanks for hosting this one, Glenna. Did a great,
You're welcome.
great topic, everybody. We'll see you next time. Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Bye.
Hey, it's Michelle, and you've been listening to another great episode of We Speak Dispatch, proudly sponsored by our friends at Zybex.
Down approaching sunset.